What would be possible for you if you were free from the fear of rejection, free to be unapologetically true to yourself, free to be fully self-expressed and accepted for who you really are? Do you even believe that it's possible? We do. Tune in to hear why. Welcome to Follow the Calling.
Be confident in knowing how to get the results you want.
Be secure in knowing who you really are.
Be inspired by the possibility of the difference you're here to make.
Follow your calling and experience true fulfillment.
So welcome to another episode of Follow the Calling, and today's episode is entitled Powerful People Are Fully Self-Expressed and Accepted for Who They Really Are. Now, we believe that you deserve to be fully self-expressed and accepted for who you really are. But what does that mean exactly? Well, it's how our external life finally becomes a reflection of who we really are on the inside. It's to say what's on our minds and to take bold action without being stopped by the fear of rejection, to stand powerfully in our truth and finally follow our heart's calling, confidently knowing who we're uniquely called to be in the face of anything. Now, with us on this episode today, we have two friends and fellow voyagers of the Polaris game. We have Kieran Cooper and Tiffany Ledesma.
The Polaris game team. We have the Polaris game team on this podcast episode.
Team members. And of course, you know, Kieran and Tiffany weren't always team members of the Polaris game. They started off as voyagers and have taken the game on to such a level in their own life that they just rose as leaders in our community and have just quite naturally stepped into that leadership and joined us on the team. And it's been a real pleasure serving our community alongside you guys. So we're really chuffed that you're on this episode alongside us. Now, coming back to what we were talking about with what it actually means to be fully self-expressed and accepted for who you really are. I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience, guys, Kieran and Tiffany. And maybe I'll come to you first, Kieran. Do you have an example from your own life where this has been the case for you, and an example of maybe where it wasn't true to begin with?
Where it wasn't true? Well, the main thing that pops up for me is pretty much the majority of my life I spent working in a family business. And that was kind of something that was offered to me, you know, when I was 15. So like, I didn't have a clue what I really wanted to be doing in my life anyway. I didn't really have a clue who I really was. But it wasn't very long into that occupation that I just realized that this is not for me. It was like, I don't know what it is. And I had a huge interest in music, and I was playing and singing with bands and all of that, like, you know, as a teenager to 20-year-old kind of is into. But the one thing that I just knew is that I just felt unfulfilled. I had that voice in my head that was telling me there's something more to life. There's something more that I have to offer. And I had actually expressed that on many occasions, like to my circle of friends, and I was pretty much told that I was a bit odd or a bit out there.
Yeah.
But when I started to express that openly to, say, my father, I was pretty much told like that this is the real world. That stuff is all fine in your head, and these are hobbies and these are, you know, interests, but this is the real world. This is like, you work, you get paid, you know, if you're lucky enough, you'll be able to buy a car, have a house, get married, have children, and then you'll be happy. You know, and my mother was of the same opinion. And everybody else in my family was, either working or like academic, and in that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are following their own calling, and it could be that. But for me, I all I knew is that I just didn't want to be there. I just did not want to be there, and I wanted to try other things. And the voice in my head would say, if only I had have actually stayed in school and not taken the apprenticeship, I could have gone to college and I could have actually figured out what I was about and what I wanted to do. But just trying to express that, trying to even express the thought that I might have an opportunity to leave and try something else. No, it was like shut down. No way.
Right.
And at the same time, I was, a very loyal person, but that I just knew I couldn't be me. I didn't even have the space to find out who I was and what I was about and what actually lit me up. And it was that, the opinion of others. Like, and I was very aware I didn't want to upset anybody.
Yeah.
I was very, very aware of how I was being seen by, and I love every member of my family, but, and it was, even talking about it, I feel restricted. It's just, but like, that's the first thing that definitely comes into my mind.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kieran. Tiffany, what about you? What comes up for you?
Well, in listening to Kieran, I can relate in some ways. I as I shared with you guys, I went to college because I was told the only way I would ever be successful in life is if I went to college. And so I just followed the motions. I went and got a business degree, my bachelor's in business, because honestly, I've always wanted to own my own business, and that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else, so why not business? But I went through all the motions, graduated, had my bachelor's degree, and I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do with this. There's nothing I want to do with this. I don't want to run someone else's business. Anything I could do with it, I didn't want to do. And then it was at that point I realized that I didn't even know what I wanted. And so I was already into personal development, and then slowly figuring out, now being where I am today, I can look back and see, oh man, it would have been great if I would have went after my MFT, so the marriage family therapy degree, something that is aligned with who I am now. And it just feels like I was just doing what everyone else told me I was supposed to do. And because of that, it feels like a lot of wasted years not studying and going after something that is truly aligned with me. To this day, I still wish that I would have went a different direction, because I would love to be a licensed therapist at this point.
Something that you said there was to have something that was aligned with you now. So I'm wondering, just to clarify, because I think this is probably true, but I want to check in with you first, that you feel like doing something in the realm of therapy or something would have been even aligned with you then. It's just that your awareness of maybe even the possibility or that it was aligned with you was not there at the time.
Yes, the awareness wasn't there. But looking back, all of my elective classes were like psychology, sociology, kinesiology. I mean, it was there. Yeah. It was obviously there. I just was completely oblivious to it consciously.
Can I ask, why do you think that was you was oblivious to that consciously?
Because I was following what I was told I had to do, rather than listening to me. I was listening to what everyone else told me I was supposed to do in order to have what I wanted.
So along with that, like, what do you feel like maybe not even in that moment, Tiffany, you also said that you've always wanted to have your own business, right? So you have a business degree, you've always wanted to have your own business, and that had, that it's been years of that sort of not happening. What do you feel like is the thing that has held you back the most?
The short answer, looking outside of myself for what I should be doing, not believing in myself, and trying to find the answer of what that is outside of me, rather than getting to know who I am and following my heart.
Yeah, I got you. I totally get that. And what about yourself, Kieran? How do you feel? What do you feel was the number one thing holding you back? I know you did mention that you was very aware of not wanting to upset people. But
I think at the time, the number one thing that stopped me from putting myself first and forward was my absolute loyalty. Like, now, loyalty is one of my values.
Yes.
But there's also, the dark side of all of your values, that work for you or can work against you. Like the person who likes to help others, but at the same time can't say no.
Yes.
It's for me, it was that level of loyalty that literally had me like wearing a pair of cement boots.
Gotcha. Is that saying, isn't there, that we can be loyal to a fault?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it was. And that's it. Loyalty towards my dad and not wanting to upset my mother.
Of course. Yeah.
Because together as a married couple, they wanted to see all of their children with the job, with the car, with the house, with the wife, with the children.
Yeah.
All of that, because then they've done their job.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say it was loyalty, definitely.
Effectively, that's all they're actually trying to do, isn't it? Right? They're looking out for you. There's a sense of taking care of you, and they just want the best, right? And
absolutely, I've no negatives to say at all about my parents, because I know now they were doing the very best with the tools that they had, and they wanted the very best for every one of their children. And I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
I really love what both of you have shared here, and I just think it really speaks into the experience of most people, which is they find themselves in a position where they feel that calling. They feel that there is more for them in life. They feel that they're capable of more than what they're doing right now. And yet there's this thing inside them that feels like they need to have acceptance from others to do that. That they need to be given permission in some way. Now that might be from themselves or from other people in the form of encouragement and support.
Team of cheerleaders.
Yes, that they need a team of cheerleaders, or that they just need other people to believe in them, so that they can believe in themselves, so that they can see. Even though we have this feeling that there's more, there can be a lot of doubt that comes in there, because I think we often take ourselves for granted and what it is that we have to offer. Now, so why is it that we feel that way? I mean, it seems so ridiculous to think that like we are our own people, right? And I guess maybe one of the things that comes up for me is, why does it matter so much what a certain group of people would think about you versus a neighbor that you've never spoken to versus somebody that you don't know in line at the grocery store? I think one of the And maybe this is the cheesiest example ever, but one of the things that I was thinking about yesterday as we were preparing for this is, you know, if you went out to a bar in a town that you pretty definitively knew you were never ever going to be in again, and there was an opportunity for you to get up and dance on the bar, and you just felt pulled to do that because you love to dance, and like, you know, there's just an excitement, and so you do that. And if that same opportunity were to present itself in your hometown or in a place that you frequent, like, would you do it? Probably not. So because there, you know, somebody there might know you, or somebody there might know somebody that you know.
Mm.
Right? And why do we care so much what other people think? Why do we care so much about what the people who are closest to us think? And I really believe that boils down to this not wanting to be rejected. It's, I don't want to be rejected by the people who are closest to me. I don't want to be, you know, exiled from the tribe.
Yeah.
I need to know that there's somewhere that I belong, where I can be safe. Right. And if I go out and do this thing that's kind of against the grain of what is considered safe in my, we'll just say, family or in my community, then there's going to be a lot that to deal with on the other side of that.
Yeah, we look to not rock the boat, don't we? We look to stay safe, because there is a real need for safety. But we have a strange perception of safety, don't we? So we kind of keep ourselves in this space where we're not being fully self-expressed, where we're not living into our heart's calling, where we're ignoring all of our impulses about what we're actually pulled to do and what we're actually excited to do. And we follow the norm, we follow the status quo, and yet we find ourselves increasingly frustrated by that. And even if we think of ourselves as someone who wouldn't follow the status quo, it can be intensely frustrating to find yourself in that situation and just not know why you can't break out of it. Because a lot of the people we speak to, a lot of the people that come into the Polaris game too, think of themselves as individual thinkers, people who think differently, people who dream of there being a better world, and that they believe that there just has to be a better way, and that they're capable of so much more in their life, and that for some reason something's holding them back. And there's an underlying belief there, isn't there? Like you were saying, Tiffany, that you know, there's a real need to not be rejected by those that we love, because in the example you were giving about getting up on the bar in a bar when in a town when nobody knows you, you've kind of got nothing to lose,
right?
You know, well, that's how you at least you perceive it, right? And
Yes.
all of a sudden, then you come into this situation where there's familiar people that might talk. Now you've got something to lose. There's risk, right? You're putting yourself on the line.
I think it's sorry, Tiffany. But I think it's also a lot to do with the fact that that society has led us to believe that safety comes from familiarity. Safety comes from what you know and not what you don't know.
Sure.
You know, and that is that it's and then with that belief, you get a sense of security. You know, because there's definitely a difference between just safety and then there's security where you know you fit in, you know you're accepted, you know, and you know that, you know, as long as I keep on doing this, you know, everything's going to be okay. That's not to say that we still don't believe, or that there's a voice in our head that questions whether we're worthy. That's a whole new, you know, ball game altogether. But again, I completely agree with what you're saying. Like the essence of it is the fear of rejection. And just above that, we've got the fear of judgment. Like, you know, we don't want to be judged. and we don't want, you know, it's that acceptance, and it's just security, safety. I'm in this bubble. I had a friend of mine who was like, you know, come on. I used to say, come on, we'll go and do this, we'll go to that. We might meet new people. She said, I don't want to meet any new people. That's all the friends I need.
Wow.
You know, there was 3 of us. You know, and that to me is just like he's safe in his own little bubble, safe in his, and that expands into every area of your life.
Mm.
You know?
What's coming up for you, Tiffany?
Go on.
Sorry, Andy.
Go on, Tiff. Go on, mate.
I have a few things coming up. I'm aware that some of these kind of beliefs and instincts are very primal. They're survival instincts. To belong, to like not be rejected, to be safe.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm noticing, or you know, what really came up for me strongly is that there's this piece of when we just go along with the status quo and we just fit in and we're just with everyone and we just never rock the boat. We don't ever have to face how we see ourselves. You know, like fully, because, you know, the whole example of if you go to one town where you'll never see anyone again, you could just be you. Well, what showed up for me is because then I don't have to worry about their opinions coming back to me or their judgments coming back to me or facing what everyone thought about what I did, whether it was good or bad. I don't ever have to face it. So it's like this feeling of not having to face the consequences, right, of my actions. But then we talked about acceptance, and I feel that's why the more we fully and truly accept ourselves, the less we need other people to accept us.
Yes.
And the less we accept ourselves, the more we need other people to accept us.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yeah. The thing that's coming up for me there is that what you were saying about this idea of safety, what we then get is we get to hide. We get to hide away. And what you were saying is, but we hide ourselves away from others. We're safe from the judgment of others. But what we're also doing, which ties into exactly what you're saying, is we're hiding ourselves away from ourselves too. Because we only really truly experience our potential by it being reflected by others, by it being, and not being told by others, but by sharing ourselves with others. We don't need constantly need the accolades and the encouragement of others. But we do think we need that sometimes. But it's whilst when we're in action, sharing ourselves with others and taking steps into the unknown, that's then when we reveal ourselves to ourselves, and that we can then believe in ourselves. But we have to, it's kind of like a bit of a catch-22, and it's like you think you have to believe in yourself before you take action, but until you take action, you can't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just make a start, like small steps, right? You kind of just have to make a start somewhere, and slowly and surely, incrementally, you believe more and more in yourself, and you could take bigger steps. So then bigger comes your way.
Yeah, it's like life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Right. The other thing that's come up for me a couple of times in this conversation is just, or the question is like, what's riskier? Is it riskier to potentially be rejected by the people that you feel are closest to you? Or is it riskier to never know who you really are, to live an unfulfilled life?
And therefore be rejected by yourself.
Yes.
Because that's effectively the experience we have, isn't it? It's like you're deeply unhappy with your own life, and then you start to turn against yourself and beat yourself up and criticize yourself, and then regret kicks in, right? Later on down the line. And that's when that turning against ourselves really gets ugly.
Well, and the thing is that it's only the potential that other people are going to reject you. There's nothing to say that definitively that's going to happen, but that's the story that's running in the background.
That's the person who came up with the saying, ignorance is bliss. you know. It's just that's like
Yeah.
came up with that in order to make themselves feel good, you know,
To feel better.
or to feel better, yeah,
to
because they were
feel less bad.
feel less bad in their place of hiding.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, I'll just pose this question to both of you, and whoever wants to come out first and share. In considering, well, that the title of this podcast is "Powerful People Are Fully Self-Expressed and Accepted for Who They Really Are." How has that shown up in your life?
Well,
we know, we've talked about what it looks like for it to not be there, for you to not be fully self-expressed, for you to not know who you are to the extent that you could even accept what was going on or who you are. What about the other side of that? Because I mean, I know that both of you have those experiences, so I'd love to hear.
Actually, as I'm sitting here, I'm realizing more and more how self-expression and being myself, or giving myself a license to be myself, has actually affected my life, and it's only ever had a positive effect. Because when I eventually left the family business, I went traveling, but I went over there with the one belief, I said in my head, that there is nothing that I cannot do. And I went over, and I like that in the bar where nobody knows me, I was completely myself. And for nearly 3 years, I said yes to everything. I can do that. And looking back on it now, we had such a positive effect on so many other people's lives that we met, that we're still in contact with today. And that enabled me to actually, like, I was like, yeah, actually, I got gifts. I can do things. I can do things.
Yes.
And and then the second half of that is that, as it stands right now, I'm stepping into one of my passions, which is carpentry and woodwork. Now, I'm not a qualified carpenter, but I've started up my own business, and it's handcraft, and I'm focusing on bespoke chopping boards, and it's something that I've realized is one of my passions. And on the back of that, I've just taken that energy that I'm experiencing on a daily basis with this freedom of expression and being able to, like, it's hard to explain, but when I'm actually in it, it's like I'm in a meditation. I'm in the zone, and I'm just loving every single second of what I'm doing when I'm working with those chopping boards. And on the back of that, I was like, right, I've got to get this out there. And then I just approached a local businessman. We created a local craft market that every single week has grown and grown and grown and grown. There's people calling me every day, like, and there's the community where I live are just like making me feel really good about myself, put it that way. And it's just, I know that this is only in its infancy now, and it could possibly just be a stepping stone, but I don't mind, because I'm doing what fuels me in some way, shape, or form right now, and I get to express myself. I also get to push the boundaries and jump outside my comfort zone pretty much every week.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm experiencing that. And yeah, there was a few judgers at the beginning, but like that's cool. That just comes with the territory, because like that, I'm a little bit more in contact with who I truly am right now, so it doesn't matter as much.
A little bit more in contact.
Well, yeah. I know.
Understatement of the sentence. So when you were talking about the fact that it fuels you, like, that is the absolute opposite of the life you had before, right? Because the life you had before, like you say now, these activities, what you're doing and who you're being, is energizing you. Right? It feeds you and fuels you. Whereas before, what you were doing was draining you.
Yes.
And that is how I would say is the easiest way to check in as to what is in alignment with your heart's calling. If you feel that there's an activity or a subject matter or whatever it is that you choose to do in your life that drains you, that's absolutely not where you need to be. If there's something that energizes you and excites you, that is the direction of your heart's calling.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And it's a very, very different experience. And for those who haven't ever experienced it, it's very different to them. So it's very difficult to imagine having an activity really fuel you in a way that the more that you do of that thing, the more energized you become.
Definitely.
It's the same what we have with people around us, right? Like when we talk about aligned relationships as well, it's like there's certain relationships, certain people in our life that just drain us of energy, and we just come away feeling, but then there's other people that we just feel lit up.
Yeah.
We have a conversation and we come away feeling alive and more vibrant, and just we want to be around those people more. And that's because those are aligned relationships. It's all about alignment, isn't it? Following.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I feel at the end of every call, like during the week on a Polaris game.
Wonderful. Yeah, likewise.
It's like it's just like it's like you're rebooted, or you're just re-energized, or you've plugged into something.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm good to go now. Yeah.
So what about you, Tiffany?
Yeah, I had so many examples come up, but one of the examples for me, the examples that came up pretty strongly was last year at a Kyle Cease event. I remember being absolutely terrified to even be seen by Kyle, for him to even call my name, sitting in the seats where not very many people could look at me when he's talking to me. And yet at one point he called on me, pulled me on stage. And so in front of hundreds of people, he asked me questions at first about like what my I'm just saying these words. I don't even remember his words, to be honest. My insecurities were. And so I'm sharing with hundreds of people my deepest, most scary things that I think about myself.
Yeah.
And then the most amazing thing happened afterwards is and once all that got out and I was crying and I was a mess, and he goes, and now what do you want to say to us? And now what do you want to share with us? And all this stuff that just is me came out, and that experience, it was so scary, but at the same time, it was such a pivotal point for me to be like, I can be me and people still love me. Not only do people still love me, but I'm alive. I didn't die. I'm okay. And I feel more alive than ever before. Yeah. And another example for me is in the Polaris game is I feel like it's a perfect place. It has been a perfect place for me to practice being fully self-expressed. And the more I practice there, the more I take that into the rest of my life. But and it's been a process, but every single time, earlier when Tiffany was talking about the idea of, sharing ourselves and it risking rejection. And what showed up for me was this thing of do we want safety or do we want to be brave? What do we value more, right? To be fully expressed, and can we be brave? And in the Polaris game, it takes less bravery at first, right? To be able to express myself. But the more I practice it in the Polaris game, the more that kind of bravery and courage to be who I am builds in me, and the more it's trickling out to the rest of my life. And I have to say, I have moments of little leaps, and I have tons of examples. But every time I take that leap to be more self-expressed and to be more me, whether people reject me or not. There's this, the best feeling, the best word I could put to it is aliveness. There's all this aliveness that happens. And it's just like, ooh,
Love
like,
that.
ooh, more of that, please. More of that, please.
That tingling feeling of being alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, the more I do it, just like you were talking about earlier, Annie, the more I do it, the more I know who I am, the more I believe in myself. And I'm finally getting to a point where I wanted to believe in myself this whole time. And I could remember just a year and a half ago where I thought I really thought it was impossible to ever believe in myself. And now I'm stepping more and more into this role of wanting to show others how it's totally possible to believe in themselves. And I am so grateful for the Polaris game because of that wonderful, unique, special place to practice that, I am feeling more self-expressed than ever before.
Incredible. And I know you shared with us the possibility that you can see for yourself in creating a business out of that, a living out of doing something that you truly love and based on who you are, right? So you can see the possibility, right, of a business that is an expression of who you are. It's like, isn't that a wonderful thing, right? Because to be able to say that you can go and earn your living just by being you. You haven't got to go out there and be somebody that you're not and pretend all day long or look busy or you know, whatever it is we feel we have to go and do at work all day long to earn the money. It's like we go to work and wear a mask a lot of the time, isn't it? You know, it's like we go out there and we put our life on hold for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Even on the commute, it sometimes feels like we've got our life on hold, heads down, everyone's on their phone. And then we get home and all of a sudden now we can be ourselves. But then we're so flipping drained by the rest of the day, we haven't got any energy left. And all we do is we tuck ourselves into bed and go and do it again the next day. And here you are, like, talking about the possibility. Well, I know, sorry, you've not mentioned it. It's me that's brought that up. But I know that you've shared with us on other occasions that you can see a possibility for yourself of creating a business that's just aligned with the expression of who you really are. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Tiffany. I really appreciate that. Kieran, I'd be really interested to hear, you know, everything that you shared, like with the positive shifts and transformations in your life. How do you feel the Polaris game has had, what role do you feel the Polaris game has played in that for you?
Oh, it's like when I first started to experience the Polaris game, it was like just every cell in my body was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is like, you know, the closeness, the support, the difficulty level, the difficulty of being that honest with yourself,
right?
And then everybody else experiencing the same type of difficulty with being that honest with themselves, and then all of a sudden it's just that space of just knowing that I can say whatever the hell I want here and nobody's going to say, like, nobody's going to pull me up on it, and nobody's going to say it's wrong, or nobody's going to have any judgment on it. It's just, and it's like that's the perfect breeding ground to figure out who the hell you are and what you're about.
Right.
And you know, it also gave me, I know we were talking about this on another call, but it gave me a level of structure that was just enough to keep me moving in the right direction, without being kind of like, without being, oh, there's another shiny object and I go that way, or, you know what I mean? It was, yeah, but overall, the ability, it's all about the pause. That's what it is. We all talk about the pause. It's that moment between reaction and response. And it's that moment where you get to check in with what we call a super identity, the true self. For me, that's the game changer. Finding that pause, and that's something that the Polaris game has brought into my life.
Got you.
You know, I'm not saying that I hit the pause every time.
Can I just give a bit of clarity for anyone listening? What you're actually talking about there, just in case anyone's not really cottoning on, is that life comes at us, right?
Yeah.
Life comes at us. Situations happen. Life happens, as we say, and then it's who we are in response to what happens that determines who we are. And it's the pause that you're talking about is the pause between the event and how we respond, because we can find ourselves just reacting to life almost as though the event happening that feels like it's something happening to us rather than for us. The event happening has no separation from our reaction. We're caught up and taken along with our circumstances. Like we're being blown around like a leaf in the breeze, right? Constantly fighting fires and going from one problem to the next. And then before we know it, you know, we're miles away from what we were aiming at in our life. And we can't even find our way back. But what you're talking about is about every moment being able to mindfully pause and be able to tap into a much truer sense of who you really are before that response, so that response can be an aligned response, right? Is that really
100%? Because it's in that pause, and it sometimes it's just seconds, just in that space of pause. That's where I get to realize, like, who I am, what I'm about. Like, it's a space where I get to take responsibility in that moment for whatever comes out of my mouth in the next few seconds, or how I think. And it's just, even if it's just that space of pause, just to actually be aware of the voice that's in my head. Because a lot of us don't realize that the voice is in the head, and we just go with it, you know, and don't realize that the voice doesn't know anything. You know, but it is that space where I have the opportunity to be fully self-expressed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kieran.
Just briefly, Kieran, earlier you mentioned that you have a value of loyalty. And this idea that our values can play out on the shadow side, or be playing out in our lives in a way that is actually disempowering us rather than empowering us. And I'm wondering if you could just speak into a little bit how you feel like knowing your values, having uncovered your core values, has contributed to your ability to be fully self-expressed, to accept yourself for who you really are, and even just to know yourself, know who you are.
It's like putting on a tailor-made designer suit that just fits you so perfectly. I was when my values were revealed to me, it was a sense of being reintroduced to myself, a self that I had so lost contact with.
Right.
A self who, in a lot of ways, I didn't even recognize anymore. But the more that I sat with my values, like, a lot of my values were, that's it, that's me, I'm still that person. But there was a couple of values that showed up that I had so lost contact with, but I just know now that they are probably some of the most important values, one of which is wonder, you know, and liberty. Like, it's just like liberty, there's self-expression all over the place. That's just unreal. But like, the sense of wonder that this life can be absolutely amazing, like, and it's just, it has given me almost a framework. And it has given me a sense of security, because my values and the vision of the world that I want to live in, and even my mission statement. There are three things: values, vision, and mission statement are three things that I can just look at, and it's like, no matter what's going on, I'm right back to being in contact with who I truly am. And and as well as that, when things aren't going well and when I have to make a decision, it's easy. I can just look and just go, is this in alignment with who I truly am? Is what I'm about to do in alignment with who I truly am, with my values and with everything? And it just makes even the decision process that much easier. So there's a warmness of a coming home, but there's also like practicalities as well. That's just black and white, like, it's there.
Yeah.
The ability to check in with who I truly am at any time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So how about you, Tiffany? You shared with us a little bit already the difference that you feel like playing the Polaris game has made for you in being more fully self-expressed. But the thing that I kind of want to come back to for you is around your purpose and this idea that that it was probably not even possible for you to actually believe in yourself and for you to go out there and create the business that you had been dreaming of creating, right? And how do you feel like I'd love to have you share your purpose statement with us, but how do you feel like knowing that and having a relationship with that has contributed to your ability to be fully self-expressed and accept yourself for who you really are?
That's quite a question. I feel like I lean on my purpose statement a lot, as well as my values, for sure. Especially recently, I find myself seeing who I really am. And like when I'm being fully self-expressed, I could see how I am living in alignment with my purpose statement. So how has it helped though? It's a reminder. And one thing I want to say really quickly, I could probably talk about this forever, is that it wasn't that I lacked the skills or talent that I didn't believe in. Like we've spoken about so many times, I have dozens of certifications and trainings and all of that. Yeah. And I never felt like enough. And what I needed more than anything was to believe in who I am. And how could I do that if I didn't know who I was? But my purpose statement is, my purpose in life is to see the unique value in others and to help them to help them deeply trust and believe in themselves so that they understand their significance, are empowered to transform from within, and know they are capable of creating the life they desire.
Beautiful.
Now, having that and, having that purpose statement to kind of lean on and know that like, that's who I am. And it's not the statement that told me who I am. It's how much I resonate with it, how much I feel it with every fiber of my being that told me that is my purpose statement. Right. And I feel like, yeah, that's important to say, but knowing that and then leaning on it, that I have that ability, that is what helps me believe in myself. That is what I needed the most. It's like this circular, cycle. Like, am I in the cycle of doubting myself because I need more information? Therefore, I don't believe in myself because I'm unworthy, because that cycle. Or I can go to the cycle of, well, I have the ability to help people believe in themselves, and I see the unique value in others. That helps me believe in myself.
Yes.
And I think that's more valuable than anything for me, because it's so important to me. It's how I do everything. It's how I raise my kids. It's how I relate to how my relationship with my husband. Everything is about being the person that helps, that supports them and believing in themselves.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Because your purpose statement is an articulation of who you are at your natural best. Right. And so it is amazing, isn't it, to see how your purpose statement reflects back to you who you kind of already know who you are, but you've just not put that in words. You've not put that intangibleness into words. But the purpose statement has made the invisible visible for you. But not only does it reflect back for you your experience, but it also gives you something to live into intentionally as well, right? From the other side. So when you were saying about leaning on that, I was taking that to mean that also you mean living into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get enough, when you can see and you believe and you feel and you know in your heart that that is who you are at your natural best, you can just fully trust that and live into it and intentionally create every moment of your life in that way, you know, through the words of that statement. They give you direction and they give you the guiding light and a map, if you like, to, you know, create with on a moment by moment basis. And of course, moments add up to days and days add up to weeks and weeks add up to years of our life, you know, and if we're taking aligned actions in each and every moment, then imagine where we would be a year from now. Right. And of course, you both of you are having this experience because you are both living out of that space of alignment and seeing the circumstances in your life shift massively into something that just feels like a life that you own. You know, would that be true to say, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a space where we're actually taking responsibility for who we're being on a daily basis. And that comes with its challenges. But we're totally, like, I can only speak for myself. I'm totally okay with those challenges because, you know, I'm steering my own ship. You know, I get to be responsible for who I'm being every day. You know, and the Polaris game and everything that it stands for and the pillars that it's built on have enabled that. You know,
yeah. I love that. I have one last question for each of you, and you maybe will feel like you've already answered it, but that's okay. So the title of this podcast is that powerful people are fully self-expressed and accepted for who they really are. And what do you guys think it takes to be that person, to be a powerful person who is fully self-expressed and accepted for who they really are? Tiffany, I'm going to come to you first.
For me, personal responsibility is, like Kieran said, is absolutely a huge piece of it. But what also is showing up is choosing to be in alignment with me, regardless of what that looks like or what risks that feels like or what fears it brings up. It's always making a choice to be aligned with me.
How do you know that you're sorry?
Well, I mean, I was going to say my purpose, my values, all of that help, right? When I absolutely can't find it, but it's also a feeling, you know, it feels aligned. I feel expansive. I feel alive. When it doesn't, I feel restricted. But it's just what I was going to say is just, it's this choice. I choose me over choosing acceptance of others, over choosing opinions of others. It's every day choosing me. That's what full self-expression feels like to me. I'm making a choice. I'm taking responsibility for choosing me.
I got you. And what I love about that is that by choosing you, that puts you in a powerful place to serve others, right? Because that is absolutely not a selfish thing, is it? It is in fact the most unselfish thing you could possibly do, because when your needs are met, everyone around you wins. So that just highlights the fact, it just highlights the value of who we are as individuals, you know.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and I would say the more I choose me, the more I'm able to serve others.
right.
It takes so much more energy and everything to like not to ignore who I really am and to choose what others expect of me. Like all of that does is dumb me down,
Yeah.
you know, and make me live out of survival, which makes it almost impossible to serve others. The
Mhm.
more I step into what makes me feel expansive, the more I'm able to serve others.
Mm.
Yeah, love it. How about you, Kieran?
Firstly, I just completely agree with Tiffany with everything she said. But for me, at the forefront, first of all, before I can take responsibility for who I am, and before I can lean into who I am, it's about finding out who I am
Mhm.
or getting reintroduced to who I truly am. And once I have that information, once I know that I can stand solid, knowing who I truly am and what is important to me and what I'm about and what I can do and what my possibilities are, which are endless and limitless.
Mhm.
But knowing myself, then the choice to take personal responsibility and to lean into whatever it is I choose to do. And no matter what I choose to do, first and foremost, it's because of who I know I am. I'm being like it's who I choose to be. You know, it's like everything is a byproduct of that. Because I know that when I'm not leaning into who I truly am, I'm useless to the people who are most important to me.
Mm.
I might as well not be there, you know. And that's when I'm caught up in a whirlwind of what I believe I should be doing at the time, and I completely lose connection with who I truly am. But again, that turnaround time is so much quicker these days. So much quicker. But yeah, for me, it's knowing who I truly am first and foremost, and then I can absolutely take responsibility because
Then you become a powerful person.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, you're just in the zone. You're just in flow.
Because as well, you're acting in integrity with who you are, right? But
yeah,
how can you act in integrity with who you are if you don't know who you are? I mean,
exactly.
You can think that we can think that we're a person of integrity, even if integrity is something that we truly value. But if we don't know what it is we're being in integrity with, we're kind of lost, right?
Yeah.
Because what we end up being in integrity with is who we're told we are, by others, by society, by situations. You know, it's like finding out who we are on a unique individual basis gives us the ability to act in accordance with that knowledge. And then create a life that fits us like a glove. Create a life that
it is the tailored suit.
Yeah, like the tailored suit. The life that matches who we feel like we are on the inside, to feel like we belong to our own life, like our life is our own. You know, how can our life end up like our own if we're constantly living as though we're someone we're not? You know, so it's like, I totally love what you're saying, Kieran.
And it's like before the Polaris game, I was working off this inside here. There was things that resonated with me, like when I was whatever books I was reading, when I was on the search to figure out who I am, and you can call that like spiritual awareness, personal development, self-development, you name it. Like, but for me, for years and years and years, the things that affected me the most were the things that resonated with me, but I had no idea why they resonated with me. No idea. You know, and then all the pieces just came together, you know, and they're still coming together. And I'm very excited about that as well. So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining us today, Kieran and Tiffany. And you are definitely two powerful people. Absolutely. And for everybody who's listening, know that we will be continuing this conversation in the Guardians Lounge, which is exclusive to our Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook. And in that space, we regularly invite 2 community members to join us in the Guardians Lounge. So if you're interested in being a part of this ongoing, continuing conversation, please be sure to join the Facebook community and watch our welcome video for further instructions. You'll be able to find that link in the show notes. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It would be really helpful to us, and we'd be so grateful. Thank you again, Kieran and Tiffany, for joining us today. It's been a really lovely conversation. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Follow the Calling.
Love you guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Loved it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for showing up for yourself and exploring this space with us. We are a stand for you to follow your calling, whatever that might be.
Be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in playing with the concepts we share on this podcast and you'd like to continue this conversation with us, we invite you to join us in the Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook, and you can find the link for that in the show notes.